Ever wonder what all those airport lights, signs and runway markings actually mean? They're not just pretty lights blinking in the dark. They're a coded language, designed for one audience, the pilot. If you don't understand it, you don't fly. So today, we're decoding all of it. Let's start from the ground up. Runway edge lights are white. They run along the sides of the runway, clearly outlining its borders. But when you get close to the end, specifically the last 600 meters, they switch from white to yellow. That's your visual warning. You're running out of space. At the very end, you'll see red lights facing you. These are the runway end lights, signaling there's no pavement beyond that point. Runway centerline lights follow a similar rule. They're white along the main stretch, but starting 3,000 feet before the end, they alternate red and white. And in the last 1,000 feet, solid red. Time's up. Abort if you're not down. Now shift over to the taxiways. The edge lights here are blue. It's how pilots can navigate the airport maze at night or in low visibility. The centerline on a taxiway is lit with green lights, like a path carved through the darkness. So if you ever hear "follow the greens," now you know exactly what that means. Blue edges, green center. That combination is universal. Some taxiways are also equipped with stop bars, bright red lights embedded into the pavement. These aren't suggestions. When they're on, you stop, even if you've been told to taxi. These bars are controlled directly by air traffic control and prevent runway incursions, especially in low visibility. Now think about landing in thick fog. You're flying entirely on instruments, descending toward a runway you can't see yet. That's where the approach lighting system comes in. It's a series of lights stretching out from the runway threshold, sometimes for over a kilometer. Some systems flash in sequence, drawing your eye toward the runway like a visual funnel. They act as a transition from instrument flight to visual landing. If you've ever seen two super bright white strobes flashing at the runway threshold, that's an REIL system, or runway end identifier lights. They're used when a runway might be hard to spot, especially at smaller airports, or one surrounded by city lights. Once you're aligned, it's time to manage your descent angle. On the side of many runways are PAPI lights, precision approach path indicators, 4 small boxes that glow either white or red. If you see 2 white and 2 red, you're on the perfect glide path. More red than white means you're descending too fast. More white than red means you're too high. All red. That's a hard no. You're too low. Climb immediately. Some airports use VASI lights instead. They follow the same red and white concept, just arranged vertically, or in 2-bar systems. They may look simple, but they're precise. They keep you on a 3-degree glide slope, the gold standard for most landings. But let's say your radio fails. You're flying into a busy airport, and you've lost communication. This is where the light gun comes in. A literal flashlight from the control tower, but with powerful colored signals. A steady green beam means cleared to land or cleared for takeoff depending on your position. A flashing green means cleared to taxi if you're on the ground, or return for landing if you're in the air. A steady red means stop immediately. A flashing red taxi clear of the runway if you're on it, or do not land if you're approaching. Alternate green and red means to exercise extreme caution. Now look down. The runway markings tell a story. The huge white numbers painted at each end of the runway aren't random. They represent compass headings. So if you land on runway 09, you're facing 90 degrees, due east. Parallel runways get a letter, L for left, R for right. Some big airports even have C for center, if there are 3. The white stripes before the runway are threshold markings, indicating where the landing portion starts. Further down are aiming point markings, big thick bars that show you where to touch down. Then there's the touchdown zone markings, narrow bars that help measure distance after touchdown. The centerline stripe guides the aircraft straight down the middle of the runway, all the way to the end. On taxiways, markings are yellow. The solid yellow line is the center line. Hold short lines, where aircraft must stop before crossing a runway, are 2 solid yellow lines and 2 dashed lines across the taxiway. If you're approaching from the dashed side, you can cross. Now, from the solid side, you stop and wait for clearance. Next up, signs. They are everywhere around the airport. Red signs with white text are mandatory instruction signs, like stop signs for aeroplanes. They're used at runway holds, ILS critical zones, or do not enter areas. Black signs with yellow letters tell you where you are, that's a location sign. Yellow signs with black text and arrows, directional signs. They point toward other taxiways, runways, or terminals. Each one is there to prevent confusion, especially in complex airports with dozens of intersecting paths. When night falls or fog rolls in, these systems become critical. Pilots may land with visibility as low as 200 meters, or less. That's where Category 1, 2 and 3 ILS systems come in, working with lighting systems to guide aircraft all the way to touchdown, sometimes even without seeing the runway until the final seconds, or not at all. In those moments, the pilot's entire world shrinks to a few lights and a few instruments. Every dot, every line, every flash of color becomes a message. A conversation between the airport and the aircraft. And now you understand it too. From the lights on the ground to the beams in the sky, this is how aviation speaks. And if you know the language, you'll never see airports the same way again.